You're listening to Packers Talk Network.
You're listening to No Huddle Radio on the Packers Talk Radio Network, your home for in-depth and thoughtful Packers analysis. I'm your host, Gil Martin. My co-host is my good friend, Sean Tehan. In addition to this show, I write for the PackersPost.com and Cheesehead TV. Sean was a TV sportscaster in Minnesota. We're here to talk Packers because you're all here for one thing, and that's a love for Green Bay football. Sean, how's it going?
It's going, man. Hey, it sounds like we're all busy. You're busy writing articles right before showtime. I'm busy with yard work and doing my full-time job. So, you know who's also hoping to be busy a little later this year, and our viewers can help with that. It's our sponsor, theticketking.com, Wisconsin's own Ticket King. For over 30 years, they've been providing Packers tickets to Packer fans, as well as Bucks, Brewers, and Summerfest tickets. You can find them on the web at theticketking.com or visit their locations in Green Bay and Milwaukee. That's theticketking.com. The link is right there on your screen. And if you're following with us on YouTube or Facebook today, thank you so much. You can watch every episode of No Huddle Radio on Packers Talk Network with Gil and myself on YouTube. Click on that bell, turn the notifications on, join the discussion, chat with us live. We'd love to see and talk about the comments coming our way. And Gil, a hot topic, a hot offseason topic, especially recently, has been about Jordan Love. And the big question is, his first year as the starter, 32 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, look like, hey, the Packers are moving from one future Hall of Famer to a potential future Hall of Famer. Then statistically, Jordan Love kind of took a dip. And the big question is did he get worse in 2024? Matt LaFleur has been very adamant saying he did not. A lot of people have come to the defense saying he did not get worse as well. It seemed like everything around him got worse. So, Gil, let's talk about it. Do you think Jordan Love regressed in 2024?
No, I don't. Here's what I think happened. There's a number of factors. You talked about one, the receiving core, a lot of drop passes, a lot of mistakes there. You have the injury that he suffered at the end of week one on that terrible field in Brazil. Yep. That we're going to talk a little bit later, didn't just affect Jordan Love, but a number of other players as well. And again, should the NFL be having those games on those kind of fields? A different topic for a different day. I agree with you. No is the answer. Mm-hmm. So that's factor number two. And then I think when you look at the numbers, when you look at the raw statistics, his passer rating was actually slightly better in 2024 than it was in 2023. And if you want to nitpick, okay, it was less than a point. So he roughly stayed the same statistically. What did not happen was you did not see Jordan Love take a step forward from where he was a year ago. And when you combine that with the amazing hot finish he had over the last 8 games of 2023, that's why it feels like a step back for a lot of people.
And I'm with you there too, where I don't think he regressed. He also had a higher yards per attempt as well. And it just seems like Love and the Packers really want to push the ball downfield with the vertical passing game. And there are other factors where the Packers receivers, second highest drop rate in football. We talked about where they catch half those passes, and Jordan Love's probably top 10 in completion percentage. But you could also say that for every other NFL quarterback. But the volume of drops, I know people have said where it's like, oh, well, if you cut everyone's drops in half around the league, Jordan Love is still 15 to 20 range in terms of completion percentage. But his receivers, they dropped a lot of passes. Again, the second highest drop rate. Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, and Dontavian Wicks were all top 10 in drops in the NFL last year. A very, very troubling stat. And that's why I feel like they had to go get a guy like a Matthew Golden and a Savion Williams with a couple premium picks to bolster that room, because they definitely need the competition. But Jordan Love, I'm with you where I don't think he got worse, but I don't think he got better either. And that Brazil game, that first game, screwed him up. And he kind of was a little more detailed about it recently when talking after OTAs about how it did definitely affect him, but he never really talked about it during the season. I think that was a huge factor. He couldn't really step into throws. I don't think he could get everything he wanted to. He wasn't as mobile too. It was definitely a lingering issue. And I think it was a much bigger issue than we may have thought during the season last year.
Look, I give him credit for playing through it and for not complaining and doing his job as best as he could. And, I think this season coming up, 2025, is going to be a pivotal one for Jordan Love, because the time for him to make that progress is now. And if he shows progress this season and he's got more weapons and hopefully he stays healthy, then, he's back on track to being the next great elite quarterback, next franchise quarterback for the Packers. If he continues to either stay the same or if he does regress this year, that opens up a whole different pathway for both him and the Packers going forward. So this is a crossroads. This is a critical year in the development of Jordan Love.
And Matt LaFleur also said that he was, in 2023, he played 17 games. And in 2024, he technically was in 15 games, but really he only played 14. That Jacksonville game, I feel like, was kind of a wash where he dealt with the groin and he left that game at halftime. And it was just, it's a game I don't really count, but the yards overall per game were down too. But he was still, you're talking about a guy who still threw 25 touchdowns. He did throw 11 interceptions in fewer games. He threw the same amount of interceptions as he did in 2023. But it's a good sign if last year was considered a down year, that he still threw 25 touchdown passes and still led the Packers to 11 wins. Well, 9 wins because Malik Willis led them 2 of those wins, but he's led them to back-to-back playoff appearances. And you don't go to the playoffs if you have a bad quarterback. So I do think Love is the guy where it's like, I do trust him, but he definitely should be on high alert if the play does get worse in 2025, which I don't think he got worse from 2023 to 2024. That's not what I'm saying, but he's got to show some improvement, I feel like, this year.
Yeah, he didn't get worse, but he didn't get substantially better. And obviously you want to see, especially with a younger quarterback, you want to see him get better. And look, there are things he can work on. The footwork has been an issue since the Packers drafted him, and they've been working on it, and he has improved in that area, but there's more improvement. And then I think the big thing with Jordan Love, in my mind, is to try to find that sweet spot between always trying to get the big play and always trying to check down and go with the safe play. Early in the season, he was trying to throw downfield maybe a little bit too much. Late in the season, maybe a little bit too little. He's got to find that sweet spot. And then if his receivers can even be average at holding on to the football, I think we're going to see much better numbers from Jordan Love in 2025.
Hey, Tom Brady was a check down merchant, and that guy won 7 Super Bowls. Maybe Love needs to do a little more of that and let his receivers go to work. And the big question now is, Gil, where Jordan Love is not really in the MVP conversation. He hasn't been the last couple of years, but could he get to that? Sure. And today, though, where would you rank Jordan Love amongst the NFL quarterbacks today? I think he's definitely top half of the league, but I'm curious to know where you would probably put him.
I'd be looking somewhere in the 12 range, give or take 1 or 2. I mean, I would have to do a full chart and analyze it, but I'm saying he's somewhere in the 10 to 13 range. If I had to pick a number, it'd be around 12, but that's really kind of off the top of my head.
I think right now there are 7 quarterbacks who are definitely ahead of him. And I feel like 1A and 1B, so 1 and 2, however you want to say it, is Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Even though Patrick Mahomes, his numbers were not, they took a dip last year. He's Patrick Mahomes. And The guy has won multiple MVPs, multiple Super Bowls. He's still in the top 5 for me. Joe Burrow is, I think Jared Goff is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL right now. Jaden Daniels, I think, is right there. Baker Mayfield, I think, is just ahead of Jordan Love as well. He's really resurrected his career and looked like a former number 1 overall pick in Tampa. But then you get in the debate, you get in kind of the weeds of where you can make an argument that he's better than Jalen Hurts or Justin Herbert or Matt Stafford, but you could also make a case that those guys are better than Jordan Love as well. So I feel like looking at it from that standpoint, I feel like he's in the 8 to 11 range, but he definitely has the potential to move into the top 5. He's got loads and loads of potential, and the guy is young. He's got a big arm. It's just about fine-tuning those mechanics. I'm with you.
Yeah, and look, Matt LaFleur is kind of a quarterback guru. He knows how to work with the signal callers. It's a quarterback-friendly offense. He should have, and he's got a really good running back and in fact, a running back room behind him, assuming that everybody stays healthy. He should have every opportunity to take it up a notch in 2025. And I wonder, and we'll never know the answer definitively, but I wonder if he would have stayed healthy in 2024, what would his numbers have looked like?
You wonder, too, if their receivers just catch the ball a little more efficiently, that it could have been a totally different season, too. There's just countless times Dontavian Wicks is wide open and he just would drop it last year. It's like the guy can get open. He's just got to finish the play. But, hey, Jordan Love, the Packers are doing whatever they can to help that guy. They used their first 2 days of draft picks on offensive players. They got another offensive lineman in the interior in free agency and Aaron Banks. So a lot going on. And not really on paper a lot of help for the defense. Yeah, they got Nate Hobbs on the back end for the uncertainty potential of Jair Alexander. We'll probably talk about Jair next week because mandatory minicamp opens next week. But a big focal point last year and kind of a negative last year from the defense. A defense that was still a top 10 unit in Jeff Hafley's first year and a defense that seems to have a load of potential was veteran defensive tackle Kenny Clark. Remember, he signed that contract extension, a rare third contract given out by the Packers before the 2024 season. And this is coming off of a career best season in 2023, where he had 7.5 sacks and 9 tackles for loss and 16 quarterback hits that season, all career highs for him. And he only had 1 sack and 5 QB hits in 2024. And it was his worst statistical year essentially since his rookie season. And Gil, he did talk to the media, members of the media after OTAs earlier this week, said that Brazil game, and we're bringing up Brazil, that he had a toe injury, he had bone spurs that he dealt with all season long. He played in every single game, had surgery on the foot that he had that toe injury on right after the season, and said it affected him quite a bit. So let me ask you this, Gil. Is Kenny Clark poised for a return to greatness in 2025, assuming that his health is right and that he feels a little bit better body shape wise?
I think he could. Look, I would take 85% of what Kenny Clark was in 2023 in 2025. I'd be very happy with that. So I don't think he has to, top the 7.5 sacks and obviously his role in the defense with the 4-man front versus the 3-man front could be different. But I think if we see close to the old Kenny Clark, will be in very good shape. And again, memo to the NFL. You want to have international games, by all means, have international games. But you got to make sure that the playing surface is safe for the players before you do that, because it looked like that game in Brazil, and that wasn't the only international game that has had issues with the playing surface, but it looked like they were playing on an ice rink. And you should not be playing a game where the surface affects the outcome that much.
Yeah, it's interesting because, again, I was genuinely surprised how little of an impact Kenny Clark made last year, because that guy is usually he's got a lot of focus on him all the time in the interior D line. And even after during the season, I'm like, he's got it. I was thinking internally, he's got to be hurt. There's got to be something going on, but he still was showing up every game. He was suiting up for every single game, and he was in the lineup, and he was on the field for a large chunk of snaps. And it makes sense now. So when he did confirm that he did have that injury last year that he played through, it made a lot of sense, because I do trust Kenny Clark. We've seen what he can do when he manhandles guys, and when he gets those big paws on you, it's over. It's absolutely over. And when he's fully healthy too, goodness, that Packers defense goes from 0 to 100 in a hurry.
Yeah, no, I've always been a big Kenny Clark fan. I understand why the Packers don't give out a lot of third contracts, but if anyone was going to get one, I think Kenny Clark was, appropriate to give it to him. And then you have this injury. I'm almost relieved, to be honest, to hear that that injury played a role in the decrease in his productivity last season. And now let's see if he can have that bounce back year.
And you wonder, too, on top of that, where maybe we see another jump from Devontae Wyatt going into year 4. We see a jump from Carl Brooks going into year 3, and you get a healthy Kenny Clark in addition to that. And that D-line could be pretty scary. It could be pretty good. And Kenny's just got to be Kenny. That's pretty much it. And you got to think, too, where for those who are thinking, oh, like it's just bone spurs. It doesn't sound like anything. Where it's like, no, man, everything starts from the ground up. You got to be strong from the ground up. And if you can't get off the football properly because you have a painful foot injury, that makes life a little bit difficult, especially in the trenches where the low man typically wins.
Yeah, the low man typically wins, and you've got to get leverage. And if you can't push off with your feet, you're not getting leverage. So it's definitely something that would affect a player playing in the middle of the defensive line, and it certainly did appear to have a pretty significant effect on Kenny Clark.
So do you think that Kenny Clark is going to bounce back this year, Gil? I believe in him, and I think he will. I still believe in Kenny Clark. How about you?
I'm right there with you. I still believe in Kenny Clark. I think we have not seen – I don't think he's ready to fall off and start that big decline. It may happen in a year or two, but I think right now he still has more to give.
He's still the guy's just entering his 30s, I believe. I'm going to look that up, actually.
He'll be 30 before the season's over.
He'll be 30 right before the season's over or starts?
He'll be 30 during the season.
Okay, yeah. I mean, he's still a young whippersnapper, man. You know, it's like so you got to think that he's still got a little bit left in the tank. And a guy who we hope has a lot left in the tank, someone who's been a disappointment, a former first-round pick in defensive end Lukas Van Ness, had 4 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, and 10 quarterback hits in 2023. Looked to be a promising rookie year, but then last year he dipped. His play dipped quite a bit. 3 sacks, only 6 tackles for loss, and 6 quarterback hits all of last season. Now, Matt LaFleur and the coaches sound very high on him. LaFleur said he's excited to see what he can do when the pads get on in training camp and everything. Lukas Van Ness is entering his 3rd season. This is a pivotal year for him, a guy who the Packers, essentially, they got him because of a pick swap with the New York Jets in the Aaron Rodgers trade. 13th overall pick. That's a premium draft pick, Gil, that they use. What should we expect from Lukas Van Ness in 2025? Because he's definitely playing for his future coming up this season.
Well, look, after this season, they have to figure out his 5th-year option, right?
Exactly.
So there it is. It's right there on the line. And look, Van Ness apparently had a thumb injury, broken thumb, that he says affected his ability to engage with offensive linemen trying to block him. Makes sense. Limited him to one side of the field. But at the end of the day, here is a guy who has to show – like – Kenny Clark, been there, done that. We know what he's capable of. Lukas Van Ness still has a lot to prove. What do they say about potential? It means you haven't done it yet. That's kind of where I think LVN is right now. Do I think he's capable of taking in that 3rd-year jump? Yes, but I need to see it, and I haven't seen it yet. And, you know, here's the other thing, and yeah, it is kind of a technicality because of the way they did things at Iowa. He has not started a game since high school.
Yeah.
It's time. Like when they traded Preston Smith last year, I fully expected Lukas Van Ness to be the starter on the opposite side of Rashawn Gary. Now, that may not have been possible because of the thumb that he couldn't line up on that side of the field. But I really thought he was going to take on a bigger role. He's got to do that this year.
And the thing is with Van Ness is you do see where his speed on the edge is really, really impressive. And his ability to close is awesome. I mean, I always think of Lukas Van Ness's first regular season game in Chicago.
Yeah.
Where Justin Fields, the guy, Scramble Boy, as a lot of people like to call him, was rolling outside and he beats most of those guys around the edge. And Van Ness closed on him so hard and then just essentially just grabbed his hips and threw him. And it was like, holy smokes, like, okay, this guy could be something. You saw right where it's like, okay, like they may have something there. But the big issue with Lukas Van Ness is that it's the secondary move and the counter moves that he doesn't have right now. And you hope that he's working on that. You hope DeMarcus Covington is helping him learn a few things and fine tune that technique off of the edge, because he gets a few of those, a few extra moves off the edge, and he's going to be a much better player. And I do want to note where, again, I'm not saying he's Rashawn Gary, but Rashawn Gary's career best season in the NFL, it was his third year in 2021. He had a career high 9.5 sacks. He had 28 QB hits. Again, not saying I'm expecting Lukas Van Ness to take a jump like Rashawn Gary did in year 3, but it's something worth noting. Rashawn Gary was the 12th overall pick in the 2019 NFL draft, and Lukas Van Ness was a premium pick in 2023. So this is the time to make a jump. It's just a matter of like how much we're going to see right away, if he got better in the offseason, because it's just a matter of just finding a way to get to the quarterback in other ways than just bull rushing.
Yeah, he's got to have moves and counter moves. And obviously, if he can't use one of his hands, that does limit some of those moves. But, when the Packers drafted him, the nickname was Hercules. We knew about the athleticism and the size, but we also knew he was kind of green. Well, he's been in the NFL now. This is his 3rd season. The green is no longer an issue. It is time to put up or shut up for Lukas Van Ness.
It's going to be interesting because, again, we just talked about where Jordan Love got a lot of help on draft day and in free agency this offseason. And the Packers didn't really bolster. They got a couple edge guys on day 3 of the draft. Those are guys that are not expected to go in there and be starters right away. So this is really it's Lukas Van Ness's job to lose. Gil, I'll ask this. If for it to be a promising season and to feel better about the future of Lukas Van Ness, statistically, what does he need to do? What do you need to see for it to be like, okay, we got something here?
It's not as much about statistics, although, look, I'd like to see 6 or 7 sacks minimum.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to measure it solely by statistics. Look, last year, his pass rush ability did not significantly improve, but his ability to play against the run did. He was a decent to good run defender by the time last season ended. Now he needs to step up and show me that, first of all, I want him to start. And if he doesn't start, he should be a major part of the rotation. He's got to play at least 50% of snaps, right? I mean, you have a former first-round pick. He should be starting by year 3. And I want to see that step forward, that he can still play well against the run. And, if he only gets 5 sacks, but he's got a lot of pressures and hits and hurries, I might be able to live with that if he's making an impact. I want to see a former first-round pick make an impact, and we haven't seen enough of that yet from Lukas Van Ness.
I think with him, the mark of, hey, we got something here for me will be if the Packers feel confident just rushing for the quarterback on passing situations, and if they can be effective only rushing 4 guys in passing situations on a more consistent basis. I mean, that's like that's always been the formula for great NFL defenses. If you can get home with 4 and drop 7 in coverage. But the Philadelphia Eagles were so dominant in the Super Bowl last year that it was like, oh, now everyone's like, oh my gosh, like you got to do this. Like, no, it's always been that way. So if the Packers can be more effective, especially against good teams, like Philadelphia will be a test. Detroit, even though their all-pro center Frank Ragnow just retired abruptly, if you can get to the quarterback with that offensive line, Minnesota's got a good offensive line. Chicago thinks they have a good offensive line. So if you can get to the quarterback against those good offensive lines with only 4 pass rushers and Van Ness as part of those packages, that's a good sign for Lukas Van Ness moving forward.
It would be. And, you take it a step further, too. Because if you're getting to the quarterback by only rushing 4, you can get a lot more creative in the secondary. You could have all kinds of different coverages. They were very conservative, especially in the second half of last year when Jeff Hafley realized he couldn't get consistent pressure just rushing the front 4. Yeah. So you're in more of a shell. You're in more of a cover 2. You're less aggressive. You can open up all kinds of different possibilities if your front 4 is reliably going to pressure the quarterback, and that takes the defense to another level.
Imagine what you could do with Xavier McKinney on the back end if he just has to worry about being in coverage and not having to come up and help in blitzing in passing down situations near the line of scrimmage, because that could be dangerous. The guy had 8 interceptions last year, and the Packers pass rush was top 10 in sacks a year ago, but without a truly elite pass rush. So I think just worlds of potential on the defensive side of the football. Jeff Hafley does a really great job, and I hope it just continues to grow. Lukas Van Ness is going to be a big part of that if the defense does take the next step.
Yep.
Gil, you said obviously right before we hit the record button, we hit the live button, that you're working on some articles online. What do you have online right now for Packers Post, Cheesehead TV? What do you have coming up on those websites as well?
Okay. Well, for Cheesehead TV, I took a look at Keyshawn Nixon, who now thankfully is reversing himself as far as I don't want to return kicks anymore. And I argue he should be returning kicks because he's darn good at it. And it would certainly help the team a lot. Over on Packers Post, working on a little piece about the history of Packers revenge games, because we just found out Aaron Rodgers is going to join the Pittsburgh Steelers. So what is it, week 8? Packers Steelers Sunday night in Pittsburgh. So I went back and looked at some former Packers quarterbacks who started against the Packers after leaving the Packers. And, the results for Green Bay have been mixed. Let's put it that way.
I've never been to Pittsburgh. I'm considering it, going in October, get a Primanti Brothers sandwich. It's only an 8-hour drive from Milwaukee. So it's
not bad.
It's not too bad. You just got to get through Chicago traffic and you're pretty good. But I don't know. I'm trying to convince some people to come with me from Wisconsin, maybe to see that in person. But I don't know. My luck seeing the Packers on the road has been very, very bad. So maybe I don't want to.
I thought you were coming to New York for the Giants game.
I know. And maybe the luck's got to reverse there because the Giants should not be good. But who knows? Maybe Jackson.
No more Tommy Cutlets, right?
No Tommy Cutlets. Exactly. So, Gil, are you ready for some trivia?
I am ready for the trivia.
Well, in this week's episode of No Huddle Radio, we just talked a little bit about 2023 first-round pick Lukas Van Ness. Still yet to be determined if he will prove to be a good or bad draft pick, but it's safe to say he has a ways to go for the Packers to consider giving him a second contract down the road. A current top edge rusher, Rashawn Gary, is currently in the midst of a multi-year second contract with the Packers after the Packers used their 2019 first-round pick on the former Michigan Wolverine. That was one of 2 2019 first-round picks. Now, Gil, before Rashawn Gary, who was the last defensive end, primarily edge rusher, to be drafted by the Packers and earn a second multi-year contract from the Packers, the second contract being a multi-year contract?
So it's a first-round pick it has to be?
Nope, just last defensive end, primary edge rusher in general.
Okay. Boy. Before Rashawn Gary last... I know what I'm thinking, but I don't think he necessarily got that second contract. I'm going to say Nick Perry.
So Nick Perry's a great guess. It's technically not Nick Perry, and I'll explain in a bit. It's actually Mike Neal. It was
nice.
Mike Neal in 2014. So definitely a tricky one, Gil. Nick Perry, honestly, when I was typing this question up, I actually put Nick Perry in as the answer because I was thinking it's got to be Nick Perry. But
right.
The Packers, they selected Neal, who was a hybrid edge defensive end for Dom Capers in the second round of the 2010 NFL draft, was a Super Bowl champ as a rookie. Neal, he registered 10.5 sacks in his first 4 NFL seasons and led to the Packers giving Neal a 2-year contract. Neal appeared in every game on that 2-year deal for the Packers, and he registered 9.5 sacks in that time, but he didn't play in the NFL again after that second contract ran out in 2015. Now, with Nick Perry, he got 3 total contracts with the Packers. He received a 4-year rookie deal after he was drafted with the Packers' first-round pick in 2012. His second contract was a 1-year deal for 2016, where he had a career season, which led then to a 5-year contract, and then obviously, Perry only played with the Packers and in the NFL for 2 more seasons after he signed that 5-year contract. He had a career season in his 1-year deal, and it was just the prime time to do it, Gil. Clay Matthews got a multi-year extension in 2013, by the way, 1 year before Mike Neal did. So definitely a tricky question. Nick, and again, that's like Nick Perry. I literally typed on the computer. It's like, it's got to be Nick Perry. And then I looked up. It's like, I forgot he got the 1-year contract.
1 year
and
deal.
Then he got the multi-year contract. So his third contract was a multi-year contract.
Like I said, when I started to answer, like, I think it's Nick Perry, but I'm not sure because of the way I remember there were some weird things going on with that contract situation. So
yeah, Alex Shamans, he's known as Uncle Bunkle in the live chat. Bunkle, you man, you. It's an inside joke. I love that he's tuning in. Good to hear from you, buddy. I appreciate it, and hopefully you enjoyed today's episode. Hopefully everyone who tuned in today enjoyed today's episode, and hopefully I can get some more tough questions for Gil coming up. We got mini camp next week, but then we're gonna have some dead part of the offseason. So I got to really get on my trivia. I really got to
be creative. You got to be
creative, man. There's a lot. It's hard to find one good trivia question every week. It really is, but we try to do the best we can.
You do a good job. I will say that.
It's hard to stump you, my friends. So.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Well, that's it for today. We'll be right back here next week. Follow us on Twitter at Bill Packers and at GB Packers on. Stay up to date on all things Packers or to ask us questions. Or you can email us at gbpackerssean@gmail.com. Make sure you subscribe to Packers Talk on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Big thank to PackersTalk.com for powering our show, and thank you for listening. Until next time, go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.